Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Here today with a special guest, none other than my guy from Rik Knows Hoops. How's it going, Rik?
My guy, Gary, it's good to see you, man. Happy to be back, man. It's been a while, so good to be back on the channel, bro.
Yeah, I think the last time you were on here, you were taking home the trophy for the trivia
Well,
tournament last year. So
yes, hey, it
we will
was
have
an honor to get this done for sure.
yeah, we will have a game at the end too. Not the exact same game, but that should be interesting as well. But first, we got a few things that we're going to talk about. I think the highlight over the past, well, really 14 days because I didn't have a show last week. That is Donovan Mitchell dropping 71 points on my Chicago Bulls. Yeah, I know it was tough. But I don't know. He was just insane. But what did you see from Donovan Mitchell this game, and just in general, I guess, like with the Cavs so far this year?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because a couple of days before that happened, I was having like these thoughts because there's been so many big games lately. And I was just thinking like Kobe's 81 was so ridiculous. And I wish I was able to see it in real time. And then a day or two later, Donovan Mitchell dropped 71, which is just unprecedented. And it was
Mhm.
such a, kind of weird night in sports because of what happened, on the Bills and Bengals game. So I
Mhm.
feel like him exploding was kind of like under the rug. And it's like I was sitting in the kitchen. He came into the kitchen and he turned on his phone and he turned the game on. And he was like, dang, Donovan Mitchell got 61 right now. I'm like, shoot. So I turned it on too. And he ended up with the 71. It's crazy, man. He put the team on his back because I think the Bulls were up like 20 points at one point in the game.
Mhm.
And as we're struggling, they're down Darius Garland. I think Mobley was out too. Donovan Mitchell really put the entire team on his back and scored basically half of their points. Came back and got the win, and they overshadowed like DeMar having his 40-point game. And it just shows like I think Donovan Mitchell has added a different layer to this team. Because he's somebody that's a proven playoff player. Somebody that can go out put an offense on his back in the postseason and win games and even win series at times. So that's a different layer. You might look at like the Cavs and like how the rest of the Eastern Conference is stacking up, especially with Brooklyn coming on. The Celtics have been as good as they have until really recently, and the Bucks still being very good. I think the Cavs kind of get a little bit forgotten about, but I think they can still be a very competitive team once the postseason comes around. I think just being healthy is like the most important part because I feel
Yeah.
like I haven't seen their core four on the court all at the same time.
Yeah. No, no, I feel that. I mean, especially because like it seemed like first game of the year, Garland went out, and then obviously Mobley's missed some games. Um, Mitchell hasn't missed too many, but he has missed a couple as well. So and then Jared Allen too. So it's like, yeah, it's a little weird to get that vibe. But I mean, just like you said, it was a weird night in sports. I feel like not a lot of people like probably felt the same way about it unless you were a Cavs fan or a Bulls fan. And that's probably why it felt crazy to me because obviously I was, so into the game, and then just to see us blow a big lead like that, which let's face it, that's nothing new from us this season at least. But he was just going off. I think I really was at my friend's house. Like we were hanging out. Shout out Xander, had him on last week. But anyways, we were hanging out, and I think he was at 40 or something, and like you said, DeMar, he had 44 points too, probably the quietest 44 points I've ever seen, or one of them. But like he almost had 30 at that point, and I think it was like early fourth quarter or something. That's when I started tuning in. And just to see him like kind of go off and take over the game, especially because I was mildly tuning in like a little bit before halftime too, and they were up 18 at half. It was like it was their best defensive half, the first half of that game. You probably wouldn't believe that by the Bulls because like you let a dude drop 70 on you, and then the next half kind of all fell apart. I think combined with the fourth quarter or the second half and overtime, the Cavs scored 100 points as a team, which that's crazy. That's not even 30 minutes. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was just an insane game. I've always been high on Donovan Mitchell. Personally, I've said like, I think when it's all said and done, he very well could be a top 10 scorer the league's ever seen, just because you see him do it on both the big stage and in the regular season. And just the way he scores too. I mean, you even said like it seems like he added like another element maybe to his game. He just seems more patient and more focused about making the right play as well, which you could maybe, like, if you were just watching the box score or something, people would be like, oh, his assists are down this year. Well, I just think that's part of like what the team needs more so. Like they kind of need him to be that guy that's going out there, maybe getting 25, 30 on every single night. And then Darius Garland, when he's fully healthy, he's going to be that guy that's the main facilitator, working more maybe in the pick and roll, even though Mitchell as well can. We also see Karis LeVert can. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've been high on this team. I think I surprised some people when before the year I had a prediction. I think they're going to the finals. Now, obviously, like you said, Boston's played good. The Bucks have played good. The Nets are coming in to their own. But I think the Cavaliers have been good enough to the point so far that I'm not going to change it yet. If we get closer down the line and one of those teams starts going on like a huge win streak now, because I mean the Nets did, and we're going to talk about them, but they were kind of in the gutter like when they started their win streak, you know what I mean? So they're kind of now in the mix of things. But yeah, I don't know. Cavs have been nice, and Donovan Mitchell, he's playing like an MVP candidate for sure. Don't know if I'd have him as my favorite, but he's definitely up there.
It's a stacked race, but I mean that's definitely fair to like even have him in consideration. Given how good he's been, the Cavs have been better. And if Darius Garland misses many games this season, like last year early on, the Cavs would have not even been sniffing the postseason. So he's just added, like you said, a different element. Even like you might say his playmaking numbers might be down, like assists per game, but he improved last season as a playmaker. But I feel like people are appreciating it a little more now. And I feel like even going to Cleveland has kind of helped change the narrative on Donovan Mitchell, because in Utah it was always him and Rudy Gobert don't get along. He's just a shot chucker. He doesn't play any defense. He's not a good playmaker. And now it's like everybody's praising him, which is, good for him because he kind of deserves it, man. I feel like he's getting a little bit disrespected. Like you might look at some top 10 shooting guard lists. Some people might have said he's not even top 5 on those lists, which is kind of crazy to think about, now considering how good he's playing in Cleveland. So, but then to the finals, that's kind of interesting. You said that before the season. I was thinking personally, like if they won a playoff series and were very competitive, maybe push the Bucks or the Celtics to like a 6 or 7 game series, that would be a very successful season for them. But the finals is like, it would be such a big jump from a team that has minimal playoff experience outside of like Mitchell, Kevin Love, maybe a little bit of Karis LeVert, and then all of a sudden to go to the finals. That'd be like a huge, unprecedented type of jump.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's too absurd though, just because the last 3 seasons, going back to the bubble, like of the 6 teams that made the finals, I think 4 of them the year before missed the playoffs, right? It's because you had the Heat and the Lakers in the bubble, and then you had the Suns the next year, and then the Warriors last year. Granted, I think the Warriors was probably more of an expected thing. Even you could say the Lakers too, because they added AD. But I mean, the Heat and the Suns in that instance, so it's happened a few times recently. And I don't know. I think that the Cavs, like I said, they're probably not the people's favorite. Like I'm sure most people would probably pick Boston right now, maybe Milwaukee too. Those are probably the top 2 teams, but I don't know. I'm a stick with the Cavs until I see them go on like a big slide, or until I see like one of those other teams like just completely pull away from the rest. But I don't know, man. If you want, we can talk about someone who another historic game where a player pulled off a similar move to Donovan Mitchell at the end of the 4th quarter, where he intentionally missed that free throw and then put it back up. It seems like that's the play that everyone's talking about from this game in particular, and that's Luka Doncic with his 60-point triple-double, a 60-20-10 stat line. I believe it was actually like 21 rebounds or something to be exact, but the point is it was just insane. He also led an insane comeback too against the Knicks. I don't remember what they were down. I think they were down like 9 with like 40 seconds left or something. It was very like Tracy McGrady-esque. But I don't know. What did you see from Luka in this game? And really the Mavericks, I mean, they're on a 7-game winning streak. Luka, you could argue, is playing like the MVP. I know Christian Wood's been playing pretty well lately. After Jason Kidd's like adjusted the lineups a little bit. But what have you seen really from this team and from Luka?
we'll talk about Luka first. I'll talk about him first. 2K numbers, man. That's like the stuff that you used to do on like my career in like 2K16 or something like that. Like 60, 20, and 10. That's like you said, we've never seen that before. Just unprecedented. I think second 60-point triple double ever. James Harden is the only other guy to do that. And that's the kind of run that he's on, man. Like what James Harden was doing in like 2018, 2019, very similar to what Luka's doing, you know. And them obviously coming back in that game was crazy. The missed free throw and then the tying field goal. Like I feel like we've seen that more in the last 2 weeks than like the last couple seasons. Like I feel like that doesn't happen often. Like so that's just crazy in its own right. But Luka's been MVP level. The Mavs have been playing great. And you mentioned Jason Kidd adjusting the lineups, moving Christian Wood into the starting five. I think that's been like really the big difference because it seems like his confidence is up since being a starter. Now you may have questions like once the postseason comes around, like defensively, you know, how will he be able to hold up in the series, you know, playing the five full time, but the four full time if Dwight Powell's in there. That might be a question, but so far in the regular season, it's been working. The offense has been better. For them, it's just, you know, getting guys, you know, more acclimated. You know, Tim Hardaway still coming back, you know, after missing much of last season. I think Dorian Finney-Smith missed some time too. So it's like, you know, you got to get all your guys back too. But Luka's been just phenomenal. Like he's been doing a very good, almost carry job for this team. And he should be right there in the MVP race, especially if this Mavs team continues to play the way they are. They got a big matchup tonight with the Celtics, so that should be a very good game. I'm very excited to see that. But yeah, Luka's doing, you know, we got to appreciate it while it's here because this is just unprecedented territory that he's reaching. And, you know, it's a team that made the conference finals last season and they did lose Jalen Brunson, which was a big loss. But, you know, they're kind of weathering the storm because early on it was a little hit or miss with this team. But like you said, 7-game win streak, you know, that's kind of solidifying that, okay, this team might be starting to figure it out.
Yeah, I think too, like, it's nothing to take away really just from, I mean, even to go back on first, like Donovan Mitchell with the 71-11 game, combines for 99 points contributed. Like that's the second most by any player since Wilt's 100-point game. And then you got Luka Doncic who dropping like 60, 20, and 10. No one's ever done it before. And I feel like people are kind of like almost tired of it, which I don't get really. Like, I don't know. I just think it's like kind of a crazy time that we're in. Again, like we're going to talk about another one after this. Another insane performance given like the circumstances. We're not even going to talk about Giannis today, who, you know, his last 3 or 4 games, I saw people were comparing it to like maybe the best 4-game stretch since like Kobe, like in 2007 or something. At least I saw someone say that on Twitter. But, you know, just looking at Luka, like, you know, he's definitely putting up the numbers of an MVP candidate and arguably the front runner. I mean, he's leading the league in scoring, averaging a near triple-double too. Like, I think if he got up his assists and rebounds per game, you know, just above 10, that would be the highest scoring triple-double average for a season. Like, that's just wild. Like, especially where it is now, you know, as opposed to, like, back then and everything like that. But I don't know. I think, you know, obviously the adjustments, putting, like, you know, Christian Wood more in the starting lineup, I think I agree with you on that, like, that it gave him more confidence maybe. Early in the year, he was playing well off the bench, like the first several games, and it seemed like he couldn't miss a three-pointer just from watching him. But I don't know. I think he's been playing well lately too. And you just got like so many, whether it's for good or for bad, and like I feel like mystery pieces on this Mavericks team with Dinwiddie and Hardaway Jr. You know, like you said, with Finney-Smith and Bullock, what they can provide defensively, and then like the Dwight Powells of the world and Maxi Kleber's missed some time already this year. So I feel like they're a very interesting team. They have experience. They have chemistry. You know, I think they're going to want probably a home court edge in the playoffs, and that would also help Luka's MVP argument as well. I think most people weren't really giving him that credit because when they were hanging around like 8th, 9th, 10th in the Western Conference, they're like, yeah, well, you got to win, even though they were only separated by like 2-3 games from like the 2 seed or whatever. But now they're inching closer. I think right now they're like 4th or something. I think it's like Denver, Memphis, New Orleans, and then Dallas, if I'm correct. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just like a weird place in the league right now. And also to credit Luka, like he didn't only do this once, at least since the last time I had an episode. But he did it twice. I don't recall, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was against the Rockets, and I think it might have been either Jalen Green or Kevin Porter Jr. They intentionally missed the free throw, and then they got it back, and then they shot, I think, 2 free throws or whatever to cut it to 1 or something like that. And then Luka on the other end got fouled, and he intentionally missed the second one and got his own rebound right after it again. Like,
That was the Spurs. I think
that was the Spurs. Yeah, they played the Rockets recently, but oh yeah, I think it was it Trey Jones? It might have been, or I don't know.
I don't really remember Luka had like 37 and nobody cared because it's like he only scored 37. That's not a lot.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. Luka's been playing insane. I don't know. You got any other final thoughts about him or the Mavericks?
No, I think we touched base on everything, man. It's just about them, like just getting, Kleber back. Josh Green's been playing well for them, and I think like just Dinwiddie continuing to step into that role. Maybe not Jalen Brunson, but just a little less than that because the way Luka's playing, he doesn't need that much help, and that's what's making the West so fun right now. Is like it's so tight, it's so competitive, and it's like you have Luka Doncic, you have a chance in the postseason. As the West stands right now, you have a real chance to at least win a series or two. Maybe, who knows, maybe make the finals. You never know. That's just how crazy the Western Conference is.
I think the craziest thing is the top 3 seeds in the West, like none of them have ever made the finals or won a championship. So, like, either some crazy lower seed at this rate is going to make a historic run or we're going to see something we haven't seen before. But I don't know. If you want, though, we could talk about, one of those teams that's currently on one of those lower seeds. And one player in particular who, he's battled some injuries. He literally missed 2.5 seasons worth. And just the other night dropped his first 50 bomb since coming back from his injuries midway through last year. 54 points. And I'm talking about Klay Thompson. I know the Warriors lost the other night against the Pistons. Shout out Sadiq Bey because that was a crazy game winner. But they went on 5 straight wins. Dating back to, I believe, Christmas was the first of those 5 wins, all without, their star point guard. And also, you could make an argument their second best player in Andrew Wiggins, at least he was last year for most of the playoffs. So what do you make of, just like these other Warriors kind of stepping in this role? I know Draymond, he tweeted something saying like, I'm back, like he's MJ or something, which that seems a bit crazy. Yeah. A little too much, but just the way Klay has played, the way Poole has really showed out as a starter. He's been doing it all year long, but just what do you make of this Warriors team and Klay in particular? Because it seems like he's kind of been benefiting the most as of late. What do you think?
Yeah, first off with Klay, sports betting just became legal in Ohio, and it is under that game, and yeah, he was over by about 30 points. Like he was ridiculous that night. Like he was hitting whatever he wanted. It was like a crazy game between them and the Hawks too. Like it was just back and forth in that fourth quarter. But it's good to see Klay looking like he's getting his rhythm back because early on in the season it looked a little nasty. Like it looked like, okay, this might be what Klay Thompson is now. Just very inefficient. He's gonna get his shots up, but it's either he's hit or miss because early on in the season it was pretty rough. But since Curry's been out, which is very ironic, he's been playing really well. Him and Jordan Poole have been a nice combination. Jordan Poole's always been better as a starter. Like he just plays a lot more fluent when he's starting for the Warriors, whether it's with Curry out or Klay Thompson out. He's just better in that role. He's been playing really well. And they've been getting contributions from everywhere. Like you mentioned, Wiggins being out is such a big deal for them. But DiVincenzo stepped up. He's been doing a lot of the dirty work, even though it's not what Wiggins typically does, but I mean, he's been hitting them boards. He's been hitting some shots, hit a clutch 3 in that Hawks game too. Even guys like Anthony Lamb playing really well off the bench, shooting the lights out. I think he hit like 3 threes in the first quarter last night. Like he was playing really well. He's been playing really well. Draymond's been playing. He's been playing his role. Like he's been playing really good. Even offensively, I feel like he's taking on a little bit of a role, like trying to score the ball a little more. And I love Kevon Looney, man. I feel like he just does all the dirty work. He's always in the right place at the right time, always makes the right plays, and had that game winner in that Hawks game too. Like that's just how crazy that was. So they've been getting contributions from everywhere. Last night was such a crazy game. It looked like we was going to get overtime. Like you said, Sadiq Bey called game in the Bay. But the Dubs, they're weathering this one without Curry very well. A lot better than what I thought because when Curry was in there, it was like if Steph's not getting 35, 40 points, team's probably losing by 10, 15. Like that's just how they looked. But this is why they're a championship team, man, because they get contributions from other guys. And I think, they lost a couple pieces, Gary Payton, Otto Porter, but guys are starting to step into their roles a little better, like DiVincenzo has. Anthony Lamb has stepped up. We've even seen like Moses Moody get some playing time here and there. Same thing with Kuminga. Even when James Wiseman had a big game, I think like a week or two ago. So, guys are starting to get a little more comfortable. And like you said, them as a lower seed, if that's what it's going to end up being, who knows when Curry comes back? I think he's supposed to be slated back in maybe a couple weeks or so. They're going to be a scary out for anybody, man, because this is a championship team, and nobody will want to see them in the first round, no matter if they're, a 1 seed or an 8 seed. Nobody wants to see them.
And no matter, even if they are in that 8 seed or closer to, like, no matter if they have the worst road record in the league, which has kind of been like their kryptonite so far this season, like, you still can almost count on them to, give it their all every single night when it comes playoff time. And I think, like, at least since they've, like, had this era with Curry and Klay and Draymond and stuff, I guess, like, not counting the Kevin Durant years just because, like, you still had, top 2, top 3 player in the world on your team. I think this is what they've been playing as of the last, like, 2 weeks. It's probably the best that they've been playing since like 2016, like the start of the playoffs. I don't know if you remember that, like when they played Houston, basically without Curry, and I know Klay averaged like 30 a game, and Draymond averaged like I think nearly like a 20-point triple double or something. And then like I think midway through the next round they played like Portland, and I think midway through that series that's when Curry kind of like came back. But those like 6-7 games there, that's probably the best I've seen them play since that. It's just a little bit of a different look now because, like you said, like Jordan Poole's in the mix. Like he's almost, I hate to say it, but I'm not trying to insinuate that, but he's almost getting the numbers that Curry could like prior to that. Not gonna compare their impacts. Not gonna make that argument and stir up the Steph Curry fans and anything like that. But no, like Poole has been great. Obviously, we just talked about Klay. Draymond, like you said, he's kind of being more aggressive. I would say, I know he did like get ejected the other night, but I would say he's been a little bit more like careful, like I guess like with the referees too. And then also like, Kevon Looney, he stepped up, DiVincenzo, Anthony Lamb, Ty Jerome, who basically like came out of nowhere. That was just like kind of like a signing I think nobody really even gave much credit to. And I think, Steve Kerr's a smart coach. I think that he knows like what their weaknesses and their strengths are. And he's kind of, I guess, worked off that a little bit. Like, I think when they signed JaMychal Green, they were playing him heavy like early on. And then lately you haven't really seen much of him in these games. And that's nothing against him. That just might not be what the team needs. But I don't know. I think that's kind of like the big thing with the Warriors, and that's why you can never count them out. And especially if, Klay is trying to, give off a sign that, I'm back to normal. And then you got Jordan Poole playing at this high of a level. And if Draymond can play, at least from a playmaking and defensive standpoint to the level that he played, like, for most of their like championship years, then yeah, I mean, they're going to be a tough team to beat. They don't even have Andrew Wiggins back, like we said, either. I think that's one of the most lost parts in this. And I don't know. It's just they're going to be a tough out. They're definitely going to find their way in the playoffs. Just a matter of what seed. I'm kind of curious. See, this is why the West is so interesting. I'm really curious about seeding this year because every individual matchup I feel like is going to it's just going to be crazy. But yeah.
Yeah, seeding is going to play like a big part. It would be beneficial for the Warriors to definitely just try and get at least out of the play-in. I think once playoffs come around, because I mean we don't know what the top of the West is going to look like. But if it's a Memphis, do you want to play Memphis in the first round? That's a tough series. If it's Denver, you don't want to see Jokic healthy with Murray, with Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, who's been playing good. Like you don't want to see them in the first round. Like, you would probably rather see a Pelicans team in the first round or somebody of that nature. Like that's just how tough the West is, but it's beneficial for them too in a way because there's no clear cut dominant team right now, and it makes room for them to end up being the clear cut dominant team once the postseason rolls around because that's when we know they're going to end up playing their best basketball is when it's playoff time because it's what happened last year. I think they were a 3 seed and they made it to the finals. So I think they'll be okay, man.
Yeah, and even a little bit, that's kind of been the case in the East, although over the past maybe 3 or so weeks, probably if you had to pick the most dominant team over that stretch, you'd probably say the Brooklyn Nets, who up until yesterday against my Chicago Bulls, this is why we're the most confusing team in the world because earlier we just talked about how we blew a 21-point lead to the Cavs. Now we're talking about how, we're ending a 12-game winning streak. But whatever. So the Nets, even though they won 12 straight prior to this, I believe their record ever since Kyrie came back is like 18-4. And I think I don't think they have the best defensive rating in basketball, but they have like the best five-man lineup defensively in terms of basketball that meets like the minimum requirement. Like they've just been on another level. I think Kevin Durant like it's kind of been overshadowed in the MVP talks, but what do you make of this team? Obviously, they got some of their 3-point shooters back, like Seth Curry and Joe Harris. What do you think?
Yeah, having those floor spacers definitely helps. Yeah, that game last night was just so like confusing. Like you said, the Bulls they flipped the script from last season because they couldn't beat good teams last year, and now they're beating every good team, but they're losing to bad teams. So confusing. But I mean, KD imploded last night, and it's like the Bulls were unfazed because Vooch was dominating the boards. I think that might be the only weakness for this team. Like if they run against, a dominant front line, like because Claxton's kind of small. He's 6'11". He's small. He's like 220. He's a small guy, so he can kind of get pushed out the way. And that might be the only like real thing that I've noticed that they might struggle with. But defensively, they've been a lot better than what I even anticipated. Even though they added Ben Simmons, Royce O'Neal, I was still kind of worried, but they've been very good defensively. Even guys like Kyrie has been bought in defensively. Kevin Durant's defending the best he has in like 4 years. Like he's been looking very good on that side of the floor. Claxton, I think, is like second in the league in blocks. I think he's like right behind Brook Lopez. Like he's been playing so well. Jacques Vaughn's been doing this thing as the head coach for this team. Obviously, their winning streak was just snapped, but I think it was like the third longest winning streak in franchise history. KD's offensively has been playing lights out. Kyrie has also been playing really well outside of last night, which he kind of struggled against the Bulls, but he's been playing great. And you mentioned again, like Joe Harris back, Seth Curry back. Like that's big because those are legit 40 to 45% 3-point shooters year in and year out. Like those guys are lights out in the regular season when it comes to 3-point shooting. So this team, they're going to be a scary out. I think personally, like they were a scary out last season, just having Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And obviously they got swept, but that was one of the most competitive 4-game series that I've ever witnessed. So this year with them playing as well as they are in the regular season, they won't have to go through the play-in more likely than not unless they just fall off of a cliff. They're going to be a team that has a legit chance to make the NBA Finals, which is not something that I was thinking coming into the season, not something that I was thinking about 10 games in when they were really struggling. It's a lot different now. Like since they fired Steve Nash, I hate to say it, but they just look like a much better team and a completely different team from what they did. I think when they started like 3-8 or something like that. Like they started off very bad, but they have completely flipped the script.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's not to say maybe that, like, I think personally Steve Nash in other situations could be a solid head coach. I mean, he's definitely got the knowledge. He's probably one of the smartest players the game's ever seen. It just seemed like the players never gave him the attention or like the respect maybe, and like they kind of wanted to do their own thing. And I think from the standpoint of like, kind of like laying it down front with like Jacques Vaughn, I think you're seeing that more often. And I think the players are more comfortable in that environment when it comes to like locking in and focusing in. I don't know if you saw like the footage like from the Toronto game, like where Kevin, like they were gonna run the play through Durant, and then Durant basically said like, no, run that through Kai or whatever, like run it through Kyrie, and then it worked and they won the game. But I don't know. I think that's kind of like what you're seeing little bit more like feel good vibes in that locker room. And there's other players too. Like I know you're like we were mentioning like with Claxton and Joe Harris and Seth Curry and stuff like that, Ben Simmons. But I mean, there's even other players too that are veterans that have playoff experience that might be used like later down the line a little bit more. I know TJ Warren came back, but who's to say that he doesn't, get more minutes maybe when the playoffs come around to provide like another scoring option off the bench. Patty Mills, his minutes have kind of been a little bit weird, I feel like this year, but I mean, come playoff time, he's probably going to contribute. He's one of their best 3-point shooters. So I don't know. They have a lot of shooters. Obviously, their defense has been pretty solid as of late, which is a crazy turnaround because I think over the first 3 weeks of the season, they had the worst defensive rating in the whole league. So now they've completely turned it around. And like you said, like last year, I still think they were a tough out, even though they did get swept. I mean, you can never count out Durant and Kyrie. And I think if I'm not wrong, all those games were like single-digit wins or something like that too, which most people are just going to care about like, oh, you got swept, it's over 4-0. But, I mean, there's still a solid team up there. I wouldn't put them as the favorite. Like I said, I mean, I told you already, like I have the Cavs making the finals, but I wouldn't even say they're probably the people's favorite. Like I said too, like Boston and Milwaukee seem more reliable just because of their consistency with their system. They've already both made the finals over the last 2 years. So that's probably like where I lean right now. But I don't know. They're definitely a scary team. It seems like they kind of have like this. They've kind of flipped the switch to being an underdog this year. And it's almost like they kind of like the pressure is relieved from them. So if they do make a deep run, like none of the pressure, the failure is going to fall on most of them at this point. Because it's like, oh, we expected the Nets to lose to Boston or Milwaukee. But if in the playoffs, like if they pulled off that win in the series, like I think they'll be kind of like more impressed, I would say. But I don't know. You got any other final thoughts about the Nets?
That's definitely a good point. Yeah, we didn't even really mention like Ben Simmons has been playing really well. Like Yuta Watanabe is like the best 3-point shooter in the league percentage wise. Like guys are contributing, and they've I don't know. I feel like people are more. You said like they're the underdog, and I feel like people like the underdog. I feel like the Nets were more like this season, even after all the off-season rumors. Like, imagine if they did trade KD. They probably made a good decision keeping him around, keeping Kyrie around for this season. And Kyrie shown like, you guys might want to commit to me long term because they have the makings of a team that could push for the finals. There's been a different team that's reached the finals, I think, the last 4 seasons in the East. So why can't they be the fifth team? 5 teams in 5 years, like. They have the makings for it, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, nah, I'm with you right there, though, on that. But if you want, we can move on. We could talk about another team in the East. This one has been struggling, and I was telling Rik right before, like, this is just how it seems to go. We're talking about how the Nets play well, and then they lose the night before. We're talking about how this team has been playing pretty bad, then they win the night before. But I mean, it's just one game, so we're still going to talk about how they haven't really been playing well, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. I believe they're 18-20 on the season, currently sitting in 9th. This team, they started off pretty good, start of the year, and really, like, right now with injuries, I think the only guy out is, like, Clint Capella. But what do you make of this Atlanta Hawks team led by Trae Young and DeJounte Murray so far this year?
Yeah, I think I wasn't like extremely high on them coming into the season. I'm not. I might have had them as like a 7 seed or something like that. But it's looked a lot worse than what I even anticipated, man. Like I just thought they would be a 7 seed based on how tough I thought the East would be, but they just haven't looked good, man. Defensively, we thought adding DeJounte would be a big help. Hasn't really seen much of a difference. Like they're still in these shootout type of games. Trae Young and DeJounte dynamic, like they're getting their numbers and stuff, but I don't know. It seems like Trae Young's not as it doesn't seem like he's there like he was like the last couple seasons. Like I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday. Like if he got snubbed from the All-Star team, I would not be surprised at all. Like it wouldn't surprise me, man, especially with just how poor this team has been playing. I mean, even like last night's game, I was convinced the Kings were going to win that, and the Hawks just kind of pulled it out a little, like at the end. I really still not sure how they did it, but they did. But it's a lot of questions, man. I think there was the rumors about Nate McMillan maybe stepping down like during the season, which is kind of crazy. And like you said, like they're not dealing with many injuries, even though Clint's out. People have been saying like they want to see Okongwu get like that starting center role for a while, and it hasn't really amounted to much, man. It kind of the last couple seasons, they start out slow though. They do always kind of start out slow. They're a second half team, so I want to push the brakes just a little bit, but it's concerning considering moves that they made in the offseason to get DeJounte Murray into the rotation, to get him. They gave up, I think, 3 first round picks. Like to make those moves and to still come out struggling, it's a little bit concerning, but I might have to wait until we get to around All-Star break before I really like have a very solid opinion on this team. They do need to step it up though, because we mentioned Brooklyn, ascending, the Cavs being good, it's Boston, Milwaukee. The Hawks were supposed to be that next team. They were supposed to be that next team, and they haven't been that so far. So it's time for them to maybe flip the script. Maybe that win in Sac last night is going to be the one. But they blew the game against the Warriors the other night. Those are just games that you can't lose, man. You got to win the games that you have seemingly wrapped up.
Yeah, I think when we talk about this Hawks team, like in the Trae Young era especially, like you can't help but like one of the first things that's brought up is their playoff run, not last year but the year before when they made the conference finals. And most people even then kind of admitted that, all right, this probably doesn't tell the full story about how good this team is. I think most people can agree that, that year the Bucks and Nets was probably like the real conference finals or something like that. But ever since then, it almost, and I've kind of said this ever since then, I feel like it's set them up in a bad position because now they're kind of like set up for failure. And we see last year they're a first round exit. This year, it looks like at best they're going to be another first round exit. Like, I just think they kind of got a little bit fortunate with the injuries that year and then given who they played. And that's not to discredit them for taking advantage of it that year, but I just think where we are now, like I think they probably weren't as good at the team as we saw then. I mean, they could still like you said, like they could have been that next team up, like that 5th, 6th team or something like that. I think before the season, I still had them like as my 8th seed getting in the playoffs. So I think, and you said 7th, so like they're still like underperforming, I guess, from both of our expectations too, prior to the year. I think it's funny though. I put them like, as a Bulls fan, I was so like set to mind that the Bulls, I'm like, they're going to be better than the Hawks and the Raptors this year. And what we've seen from all 3 of those teams is they've all been pretty embarrassing. So I just think that's funny, but I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, really, the injuries haven't – I mean, I know some people have been out. I know Bogdanovich has missed like more than half of the games so far, and Clint Capella's out right now. But I don't know. Like, it just seems like they're missing like 1 or 2 pieces again, like before they can even be considered in that top tier of teams in the Eastern Conference. And I don't know. Like you said, you saw this thing with Nate McMillan saying that he's strongly considering resigning. Personally, for me, I can't recall of an instance. Like the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that was like about 12 years ago. I don't know if you remember, like with Jerry Sloan, when he did step down and Darren Williams was on the Jazz. And then what happened to Darren Williams shortly after that? He got traded to the Nets. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if, already people are saying like Trae Young. I think NBA Central put a thing out like teams most likely to land Trae Young this summer or something like that. Like, I think people are already starting to talk about it. There's always a new star every year. I think 2 years ago it was Harden. Last year it was Donovan Mitchell. Now you're probably going to see it with Trae Young. Like, he's going to be the leader of those talks from a superstar or like top 15, 20 player in the league standpoint. But I don't know. This Hawks team, I still can't figure them out really. But yeah.
And it's crazy, like that even Trae Young trade rumors are even popping up because the Hawks, they've done everything they can to put talent around Trae Young. Like they traded for Clint Capella before this team was even ready, to make a real push. When they got DeJounte Murray, drafted the DeAndre Hunter, paid John Collins, they even had Kevin Huerter in the building. They went and got like a couple summers ago, they went and got Bogdanovich, Scott Linari. They made some like a lot of moves like to try and put talent around Trae Young, and it's still not working. I'm not saying it's a Trae Young problem, but you might have to look a little closer to the source. I'm just saying because they've done everything they can to put talent around this guy. And they even went and got an all-star to put around him. So it's, still a lot of basketball to be played this season. They're only 38 games in, I think. So, like, still a lot of basketball to be played. Still a whole half of the season to go. But it is a little concerning. Like you said, I don't have a pulse on this team right now either. It's like some games they look really good. Some games they don't. They play a lot of close games. They win some, they lose some. It's kind of hard to gauge them right now.
Yeah, I think the two, like, I guess to bring it back to my Bulls, I think the two games against them kind of sums up both our season and their season in the most perfect way, just because it's like so back and forth, so confusing, so like mind-boggling, you know what I mean? Like, we don't even know. But like you said, they have been a second half team for the last several years, so only time will tell if they can repeat that again this year. But if you want, we can move on to the game at the end here, the NBA 20 questions game. Are you ready for that?
Let's get it, man. I'm always ready.
All right, so I'll read the rules for anyone new watching or to recap with you. So basically, my guy Rik here can ask me a maximum of 20 yes or no questions to try hint-related questions to try and get an idea for what NBA-related thing I'm asking him. It could be a current player, a former player, a team, a coach, anything like that. He's allowed one like actual guess at whatever that thing is after each question. Of course, you don't have to use them if you do not want to, but if you correctly guess in less attempts, then you get more points. So like if you use one question and you get it right, then you get 20 points, two questions, 19 points, and so on. I told him he has to use at least 5 hint-related questions before he can give up if he simply does not know. But other than that, are you ready to get rolling?
I'm ready.
Okay, so the first question, the first thing, whatever, you can ask away.
Is this a player?
Yes.
Is it an active player?
Yes.
Is this player in the Eastern Conference?
Yes.
Okay. Good questions, yeah. Is this player in the Central Division?
No.
Okay, is he in the Atlantic?
Yes.
Okay. So, is this player a guard?
You say, is he a guard? He is not a guard, no.
Okay. Is this player a big?
Yes.
Yes, we're thinking centers. Okay. How many questions am I at? 7?
You're at 7. Now, you can also like make a guess at like a player or something if you want right now, and it won't like count against you for your points because you get 1 for each question you ask.
Okay. So it's a big in the Atlantic Division. There's only so many of those. Is it Nicholas Claxton?
It is not Nicholas Claxton.
Okay. Is this player on the Celtics?
Yes.
Is this player Robert Williams?
It is not Robert Williams.
Okay. Not Robert Williams, but it is on the Celtics. He is a big. It's got to be Al Horford then.
You can ask a hint first if you like to make sure, because the next one will give you 12 points no matter what.
Is this player a starter?
Yes.
Okay, so is this player Al Horford?
Yes, it is. It is Al Horford.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
I
always.
I did not think you would do that.
Wait, what did you say?
I didn't think that you would give me a Celtics player.
Yeah, I had to. That one was probably the most free one, I would say. But it'll get harder. It'll get harder.
All right, for sure.
But are you ready for the second one?
Yes, yes. Let's go.
Okay, so you can ask away.
All right. Is this a player?
Yes.
It's an active player.
No.
Was this player known for primarily playing in the Eastern or Western, or in the Eastern Conference? Sorry.
Um, Let me see here. Uh, so he played in both. It's very close, but I think he played most of his years in the Eastern Conference.
Okay. Is this player an All-Star?
Yes, he was an All-Star.
Okay. Is the team that this player played for in the Central Division?
Um, okay. So he played for multiple teams, not just this team in the East or in the Central Division, but I wouldn't consider this a team that he was known for. So I'll say yes, he did play in the Central Division, but it's not a team like you would say like, oh yeah, this guy, like the
He did play for multiple teams in the East. Is that
uh
what you said?
yeah, I said that. I won't count that against you, but yeah.
So was the other team an Atlantic Division team?
Um there is see this guy is so tough. There is an Atlantic Division team too. Actually a couple of them, but I wouldn't say it's his most known Eastern Conference team.
Jeez. So he's most known for a Southeast team. Okay. This player a guard.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, All-Star. Sounds like a journeyman. Um, I have a guess, but I don't think it's right. I don't know if I even want to guess that.
You
Did this
can
player play for
oh,
the Miami Heat?
you said did he play for the Heat? No, he did not play for the Heat.
Any questions? Am I?
You're at 7 right now.
I'm gonna throw a guess out there. Is this Vince Carter?
It is not Vince Carter.
That was just a guess. I think it teams in the Southeast. He played for the Hawks.
He did play for the Hawks. That's I guess this is it's not the team. Like it's not the main team I would think of him for either, but he did play for the Hawks.
Are we thinking did play for the Hawks? Okay. 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 Main team. Did player Hall of Famer?
He is a Hall of Famer. Yes.
Did he play in the 90s?
He did play in the 90s. Yes.
He played in the 90s. Hall of Famer. All-Star. Played for a lot of teams. He's a guard. Hmm. He played in the 90s. Did this player play for the Magic then?
He did play for the Magic.
Is this Tracy McGrady?
It is Tracy McGrady. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That was tough. Like when you ask Central Division, I'm like, yeah, he did play for the Pistons, but no one thinks of Tracy McGrady the Piston. You know what I mean?
Played for the Knicks, played for
The
the
Knicks.
Raptors,
Hmm.
Rocket. Yeah, that's tough. Okay,
And
that
he
was
played
a
for the
good one.
Hawks. Yeah, that was a tough one. You still got 10 points though for that one. You got 12 for the Horford one, so you're at 22 right now. But
Okay, okay.
we got one more. We'll see if you can add to that. Are you ready for the third one?
Yes.
All right, you can
Is this
ask away.
a player?
It is not a player.
The coach
It is a coach. Yes.
is an active coach.
Yes.
Is this coach in the Western Conference?
Yes.
At West guy. Does this coach a team in the Pacific Division?
No.
Does he coach in the Northwest? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, Bulls, Nuggets, KC, Blazers. Okay. Um, is this a first year head coach?
No.
No Will Hardy. Um, does this coach have any playoff experience as a head coach?
Yes.
It's gotta be Chris Finch then.
Are
Yeah,
you, are you guessing Chris Finch?
that is my guess.
It is Chris Finch. Yeah. Not bad. See, I feel like that's the most simple way to break it down. It's so funny like the way people ask me like certain questions. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like the easiest way is like break it down by team first and then like go from there. You know what I mean?
I see a lot of these on TikTok, so it's like I'm trying to like think of how they break it down. I'd be so mad when they don't break it down easily, so I didn't want to fumble as bad
Hmm.
as some people. I feel
Yeah.
like I should have got it easily.
You should have got which one easily, you said?
Al Horford. I feel like I should have just thrown a guess out there.
Yeah.
Just guess.
Yeah. That's tough though. But you still got 12, so you got 22 and you just got 13. So you got 35 points. I don't know where that is on the leaderboard, but I will say I know for sure that's somewhere near the top. So that's pretty good. But yeah. Other than that, though, I do have one more thing I've been doing at the end of every episode is for all my guests to give me at least one player. It could be current or former. One player that you do like and one player that you do not. And it could be for any reason you don't like them too. Maybe they're just annoying or they always be in the playoffs or something like that. Whatever.
Okay, that's fair. A player that I do like. Um, one of my favorite guys to watch right now, so I'll throw his name out there. Jalen Brunson. I've really been enjoying watching him with the Knicks this season, and that team in general. I've enjoyed watching them, but Brunson's been playing great. Definitely on the All Star Jalen Brunson bandwagon. I think I'm leaving that bandwagon. Player that I don't like. Ooh, that's tough. There's definitely somebody that I just dislike for whatever reason. I just think about it real quick.
It could also just be like a common enemy, you know?
Common and oh, that's tough. Um, let me look at the standings real quick so I can think of team. I know there's somebody. I just gotta like.
It could be a former player too. You don't have to pick a current player if you don't want.
Okay, there's somebody who's been irritating me lately. I'm gonna say his name. Kyle Lowry's been irritating me lately. And based off of Eastern Conference Finals last year, very irritating guy.
Hmm.
I'll say Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially because like I think people thought his maybe like woes in the playoffs per se were finished like after he won his championship, and even the next year like in the bubble like he kind of showed as such, but then last year he just wasn't that, and this year he just doesn't look like that either, you know. So
That too, because the bubble series, I feel like he seemed like he averaged like 30 points in that series. Like it
mhm.
seemed like he didn't in the fourth quarter. So that was
Yeah,
irritating, but the way he played so bad like in the conference finals last year, he
mhm.
was just flying so much. It was so irritating as a fan.
Yeah.
Um that's my reason for having a distaste for Kyle Lowry. I don't like really dislike him. Just the recent distaste for Kyle Lowry.
I think that's fair. I think that could be frustrating. I feel like I'm not a Heat fan, but I feel like Heat fans would even agree with you to some extent on what you were saying there. But other than that, though, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you guys for watching once again. You got any final thoughts before we finish up?
Just I appreciate you having me on again, and I'm always down to come back and talk hoops with you, man.
Appreciate it. Be sure to go check out my guy Rik. I'll have his stuff in the description below. But I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.